The insight is that once the associate has decided to leave, it's too late. Then you cannot, many times they say only 20% of associates we are able to retain, or even the number is even less. So whatever needs to be done has to be done much earlier.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the People-Led Show. I'm your host, Tessin Kazi, and our guest for today is the incredible Hemant Kapoor. He's the Regional Talent Leader, India at Danaher Corporation with 15 years of experience in the HR field. He's previously held positions at Leica Microsystems, a Danaher company, Pidilite, Johnson & Johnson, and Syntel. Hemant is also an ICF Associate Certified Coach and is all about embracing a culture of and in people strategy and employee experience. Welcome, Hemant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Tahsin, for having me here.
So, Hemant, I think the first question that we typically ask and we want to know is that, who is the human behind the human resources? But for today, I will take a step back and I want to know something else. When we were speaking, you spoke something about the culture of and. I'm curious to know what is all that about.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer that, when we talk about organization growth, goes hand in hand with associates growth or employees growth within that organization. So it's never either or, right? When we say metrics, it has to have a meaning. So metrics and meaning. Similarly, performance and people, results and recognition. So, and a culture within an organization, the organization growth aspirations and associates aspirations all need to go hand in hand. So that's what I mean by a culture of and I have a strong proponent or believer in this.
Wow, I think at the get-go, you just hit the ball out of the field. Who is Hemant outside of work? What do you like doing?
Oh, well, I always believe that work and play need to happen together. Having said that, I like to travel. I like to, I play the guitar. Recently, I have picked up hobbies. So one of them is cooking. So I have started following, a chef on YouTube, and I do the weekend cooking as well. So yeah, that's more or less about my personality outside of work, and that's who I am.
Wow, it's great. Traveling, cooking, and it's never too late to learn something new, right? That's awesome. Even moving on to, employee experience, which is the agenda for today. So if I were to ask you, what are the top 2 or 3 EX dilemmas or questions that you as a people leader want answers to?
I think one of the biggest challenges or dilemmas here is maintaining the consistency of employee experience throughout. So organizations, as I said, multiple processes, different timelines. You experience an organization throughout multiple time frames and through multiple processes. So how do we maintain the consistency of employee experience throughout the entire employee life cycle? So I think that's critical challenge and also a dilemma. I firmly believe that associate experience is or employee experience is basically hinging on 3 key pillars. So the first one is, as I spoke about, consistency. The second one is technology, how you enable the processes that you have in the organization. And finally, the third one is more around the values, the core values the organization stands for, and whether leaders live those values day in and day out, right? So these 3 pillars, in my mind, result in a positive or a not so positive associate experience, and we need to take care of all these 3 things.
But if I have to bring into perspective in terms of 2024, right, is there any specific area of focus for you? Something that you want to solve for specifically in 2024?
So, when it comes to Danaher and my role, I feel we are at an advanced level when it comes to employee life cycle processes, whether it's performance management, talent management, the engagement cycle that we have. It's really, I think world class. Now, for us, it is more about continuous improvement, and it is more about how do we take it to the next level. So we are doing a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Associate engagement continues to be a very important area for us to work on. And, I think, and really, in this role that I am as a talent leader, how do we make sure that associates have strong development plans? They have visibility into their next level opportunities, and how do we groom them to take up senior roles in the organization? So all that becomes a priority for me. So that's what we are focusing on. And 2024 is all about taking all these processes to the next level and continuously improve.
Awesome. You said that improving associate experience, and I think being in that process of continuous improvement. And I think one of the biggest inputs for a process like this would be to understand what these associates are expecting today. What are their expectations? What do they want from a job?
So I believe fundamentally it remains the same. When associates join an organization, they while they want to contribute to the organization growth, they also want to grow in the organization and in their professional careers. So fundamentally, that expectation remains. They want an environment which is safe, psychological safety we speak of, an environment which has trust. So these core values or these core expectations remain the same, I feel. There are some gaps or some changes as we hire different generations, diverse talent. So they may have some nuances, but broadly, I feel the expectations are still the same. And it's just that how do we hear, how well we hear them, and how we work upon that needs to change.
I think how well we hear them, that's exactly an important thing, because I think at the end of the day, maybe the broader expectations will not change, but the nuanced listening is what will, make all the impact in their experience.
Yes.
So in terms of that, Hemant, how do you listen to employees and stay in touch with what's happening on the ground?
I think for me personally, in my career, I have believed that we need to partner very closely with the business. While we do get to meet as HR leaders, we do get to meet associates in our office, and we have enough interactions with them. But we also need to spend a lot of time on the field with our commercial teams, understanding what challenges they are facing day in and day out, and that really helps us come back to the drawing board and deliver interventions which are really which will really create an impact, right? Having said that, listening is not just one time activity. We fall in the trap that have an engagement cycle. I hear, get feedback, and then work on that feedback, and the next engagement cycle result should improve. So that's an year long gap. You're listening to them once, and then you just there's a gap of about good 10-11 months. So I feel listening is a continuous process. Yes, you have your engagement cycle, you have your surveys, you have the feedback that you get, you work on that. However, you need to have multiple touch points with associate throughout the year, and really keep talking to them, understanding the challenges, because these things keep changing, right? And the feedback that you get is really real time if you do it in this way. So that's something that has really worked for me. And do not forget the importance of connecting in whatever time you have. So it's not about I should have time for connecting or meeting people. Connecting in whatever time you have is important. Whether it's a short 15-minute conversation, even that is as impactful as a long 1 hour or 1.5 hour discussion on any matter with the associate. So I feel maintaining touch points throughout the year, listening them well through various forums. Now we have technology also at our side, so it's not that always we have to be present physically. So that also I feel is important. So that's what worked for me in my career.
Wow. From a technology standpoint, any specific recommendations on what kind of things can be used? Because, like you rightly said, right, this thing cannot be a one-time process. It has to be a continuous process when there need to be multiple touch points throughout the year. So,
Right.
How do you enable this listening through multiple touch points?
So, as I said, when we use technology, we have our platform partner for our engagement cycle. I think that's a global partner that we have. So that's we leverage that platform for getting feedback, action planning throughout the year. The other aspects now are we have various technological tools that we can use to hear our team members. Having said that, it is important to really build a cadence of monthly connects with associates, through various channels, whether it is group meetings like town halls, or whether it is one-on-one connect or skip level meetings. It is important. Technology is an enabler. So it will enable those interaction. Maybe it will help you save cost. You can't be present physically everywhere. So that's probably the role of technology which enables it. However, you still need to build in that rigor of connecting and make sure you are taking out time and also connecting, as I said, in whatever time you have. So even a 15-minute informal connect with associates, really goes a long way in building motivation and keeping them charged throughout the year.
Even listening is one part of the spectrum, right? Where you're listening, you're taking action, you're making people feel heard and valued. But then there is that other end of the spectrum also where employee expectations are not met. Where have you seen employee experience break the most? And what insights have you gained from those experiences?
An underlying theme here is I mentioned the three pillars that lead to a positive associate experience. So your consistency, your technology, use of technology, and the values and the core values that the organization stands for. I think let me go one step further. There is an additional layer that I want to add, the trust factor. All these three pillars would break if there is no trust within the organization. And, we have had multiple studies for the business case of trust. We say that in a high trust environment, the cost of doing business goes down because you spend less time questioning or not trusting each other. So, and that has a direct impact on business where it goes up, profitability goes up 2x or 3x. Multiple studies have been done on this aspect. So I feel that in my experience, lack of trust or presence of it has really impacted how teams work together, how employee experiences the organization, and how really they stay motivated to the cause of the organization. So that's where most things break. That's the trust aspect. Yeah.
What are some things that you're doing to keep your attrition numbers in check, especially for top talent and new hires? Any recommendations there?
So, in my previous assignments, I have experienced a situation where we had high attrition. So what we did over there was, because the insight here is that once the associate has decided to leave, it's too late. Then you cannot, many times they say only 20% of associates we are able to retain, or even the number is even less. So whatever needs to be done has to be done much earlier. So one of the things that we did was create a sort of a heat map, where our reds at the high risk cases, the ambers, medium risk and low risk, the greens. So those kind of discussions when you have a cadence with managers and the organization leaders, see, you cannot resolve everything, but at least you are aware, and then you can really take action on some of the things which are you can resolve easily, as we call it, the low hanging fruit. So that's really worked for me. It has in fact led to a big drop in attrition rates. We were at 1 or 2% for 2 to 3 years consecutively, just because of following this process. We called it the early warning signal or early warning tracker, and that's how we worked on managing this attrition in a proactive manner.
But what about the silent employees? Do you have any strategies there in terms of how to address silent employees and ensure that they are not the ones moving out of the organization eventually?
Right. So I believe informal connects, one-on-one connects, to a certain extent, just having a coffee, having a lunch with associate, that really helps us get real insights from these associates. And underlying theme is trust. So if there is no trust, doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want, they'll not speak. But they trust you, and if there's a high trust culture that you have in the organization, more often than not, they will share their mind space, or they will share their what's going on, what they are thinking.
Got it. And I think one of the other takeaways that I'm reading between the lines here, and what I am hearing also is that even the ratio of employees to HR BPs is skewed. And I think a system like this could also potentially help HR personnel to focus on certain employees. So I think that's a great way of using technology. Got it. In terms of metrics, Hemant, what are some key indicators or KPIs that you track, to ensure that your employee experience is in check?
So we do track the attrition or turnover, as we call it. Track the engagement scores. We track, how many positions are being by internal talent. We hiring externally. So we have our own benchmarks. We want to be close or exceed that benchmark year on year. So these are some of the critical metrics that we track on associate experience.
Wow. I really like the third one about internal fill rate, Hemant, because one of the things that I've been hearing through conversations is that, especially about Gen Z, is that they are looking for change. You do internal fill rate, so that way, you're actually rotating people, giving them what they want, and you're also bringing down attrition. So that's an amazing, metric to look at, something that maybe a lot of people aren't doing right now. So can you tell me about a recent successful employee experience initiative and like what worked well about it? Like if people were to take away, 2 or 3 learnings from that, what would that be? So, I would talk about one aspect which we did in my previous time, and we named it as holistic engagement, right? When we talk about associate experience, as I mentioned, it's not one thing or one process that will make that impact, create that trust, or change that culture. So it is, you have to look at that in a holistic way. So we called it holistic view of engagement. And what we focused on, firstly, listening well. As I said, build a cadence about how we will continuously listen throughout the year through multiple forums, channels, use of technology, etc. And also we have our engagement cycle. So listening well, working on the feedback and going back to the associate saying that, hey, you said this, we have worked this. So that is one part of it. Second thing was on performance, talent management, building that rigor of continuously having those conversations, especially around development of what you need to do to move to the next level or how you want to do well in your current role, what kind of development conversations with HR, with managers, and again, building a cadence around that. Third is celebrating success and building a recognition program. We looked at what we want to recognize. So, we want to look for behaviors like innovation. So we had certain reward programs around innovation. If we want to, recognize something that they have done over and above their job, like a immediate recognition. So we did have Spot Award. We introduced those as well. So basically the need that we had, celebrating success, big and small, was the other one. And finally, I feel having fun. So we did have a lot of activities around making sure that associates have fun in the organization. It's not only about serious work, but they also have that time off. And again, as I said, it's not one time. It's, you have to have that holistic, absolutely, and you have to continuously work. Absolutely. Just one last question from me, which is, if you were to give one advice to budding people leaders, what would it be? One advice that I want to look at is, as I said, when you, especially around associate experience, what is it that is transactional in nature? What is it that's transformational? So I believe, leaders should identify those aspects, look at the transactional piece of how they want to manage it quickly through automation, through, or really remove that, focus really on the transformational stuff, which really catapult that experience for their teams. Many times I have seen leaders spend a lot of time on the transactional things, but they are not focusing enough on the transformational piece. So that's one advice. Do a self-assessment, where you spend time, and focus more on the transformational stuff. You can really add value to careers of the associate and help build a positive associate. I think that's it from me, Hemant. Thank you very much. It was great having this conversation with you. Yes. We covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure people are going to love this conversation.